This is the Monday, September 30th meeting of the Cuyahoga County Board of Control. I believe we're all ready to go. It's 11 o'clock, so I'd ask the clerk to call the meeting to order.
Good morning. Calling the roll for the September 30th Board of Control meeting. It is 11:01 a.m. Nan Baker.
Here.
Dale Miller.
Here.
Trevor McAleer serving as an alternate for Dan Brady.
Here.
Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Mike Dever. Here. Dennis Kennedy serving as an alternate for Ermin Budish.
Here.
Lenora Lockett. Here. We have a quorum.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is to review the minutes of the meeting on September 23rd. I know those were circulated in advance. Are there any comments, changes, or corrections to the minutes from anybody? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval of the minutes indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Is there any public comment today?
No public comment.
Okay, so we will move on to contracts and awards. Are there any tabled items?
No tabled items.
So we will step right into the new items for review. The clerk would read the first into the record.
Item BC 2019-713, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with the DLR Group, DBA DLR Group, Westlake, Reed, Laskoski for programming services for the Justice Center Complex project for the period April 24th, 2019 through December 31st, 2021 to expand the scope of services to include diversion program identification, analysis, and recommendations effective September 30th, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $146,900.
Nicole English with Public Works, just in time apparently. So this is an amendment to our contract with DLR Group. They are our Justice Center programmer, working on the Justice Center project overall. And it was suggested there's a smaller group that has emerged, what we are calling the Diversion Committee, to look at opportunities for diversion that can happen sooner than the overall project. There's a little bit of work that was tied into their bigger contract, but this is a more focused approach to diversion that would look at short, medium, and long-term solutions, things that we can implement in the very near future. So this is an additional scope that we are awarding to this consultant to help us with these recommendations.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Mr. McAleer.
Nicole, thanks for the answers, the advanced answers. They've already started some of the work, right?
So we reallocated some of their additional services money in the original scope to start meetings so that there wasn't a loss of time while we work this through the system. So the idea would be, if this is approved, that we will then use this money to finish everything.
So when do you, I know it's a 19 to 28 calendar weeks, when do you think the final report or the final recommendation would be?
I think about 4 months is what we've been pushing them. We've been talking about to the end of the year, if they can get it. You know, we're pushing them to get things done as quick as they can. There might be some preliminary early work that comes out first, and then the final report that comes later. So they know this is of, importance to everybody.
Councilwoman Baker?
So in reading the backup materials, this is for facility space, right? This is for steering committee develop facility space criteria and opportunities and provide space programming options. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, not just space. I think programming is the key too. So they're looking at, there's been talk about diversion, but what does diversion mean and who is it targeted to, and developing the program. So depending on who you're trying to target to not go into the jail, then tells you what space you need and what partners you need to move forward. So it's sort of a comprehensive look at programming and space needs going forward. So if we want to do this before there'd be renovations or a new justice center, what do we need, right? Is it somewhere else? Is it somewhere within the facilities we have? They will be looking at that, but the very first thing they need to look at is who we're targeting and then what services are needed.
So if I may, I know there's a lot of different agencies looking at mental health, and so are you working with those, Adams Board and
Yep.
all the others?
So the diversion committee that's been put together, it's not a very official committee, but they have met several times, and it includes, the Adams Board has involved, Metro Health has been involved. On the last meeting we had, there was suggestion to get the clinic and UH both at the table as well, because the more people
Sure.
that we aren't sending to them in the hospital helps them as well, even if they aren't the actual servicing agent as part of this. So, yeah, it's a pretty big group that's reaching to all the different providers. And then not just who's on the committee, but DLR Group is reaching out to all the providers to understand what do they do currently, what could they do in the future that would help us. So they have an exhaustive list of service providers that they're meeting with too.
Given we've contracted with Metro, is Metro at the table?
Yes, they are actually they're on the committee too. They've been there.
Thank you, it's good to know.
Councilman Miller?
Just a comment that there is a great need for diversion of the mentally ill and addicted. I think it's one of our community's biggest problems. It just creates all kinds of humanitarian problems because we have so many people in jail that really should be getting treatment, and so I support the legislation. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Councilman Miller's been at several of our meetings, but as we keep hearing the consultants say is that the jail is probably the biggest mental hospital in the state right now. So we are definitely trying to change that a bit.
Mr. Meckler?
Nicole, I think I know the answer, but they're looking at pre and post arrest, right? They're looking at kind of all the different options that have been discussed by
Yes.
the courts and the prosecutor's office and the administration and stuff.
Yes, I think what they've discovered is that in meeting with the different stakeholders, everyone has a different opinion of what diversion is and when it happens and who it's geared towards. And so they are taking a comprehensive look. Everything's on the table to start with. And what they're going to present to us is their recommendations as to where we could sort of make the biggest impact and what makes sense for our county. So everything is on the table still.
And just adding this component, that's the $146,000, right? Was it more than that and we had some money left over in the overall contract, or is this?
No, this is the amount. So we had some additional services in the original contract that's to be used as needed. We've taken a bit of that to start this work because if this doesn't go through, that's what we use to pay them. But the intent is to put that money back in the pot and use this full.
And the original contract was 1.4?
Yeah, I think because we're up to now 1,546,900. So
Okay. Any other
exactly.
questions or comments from anybody? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item, BC 2019-714, Department of Public Works recommending an award on Requisition 46855 and enter into a cooperative services agreement with the United States Department of Agriculture, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, Wildlife Services, in the amount not to exceed $6,588 to conduct operational control activities to reduce wildlife hazards utilizing the Cuyahoga County Airport and other critical airspace surrounding the airport for the period October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2020.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and the board. John Myers on behalf of the Department of Public Works. Upon request and recommendation of our airport manager, presenting this cooperative agreement with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Wildlife Services Division in the amount of $6,588 for a one-year term to assist the airport in a wildlife mitigation plan for safety in and around the Cuyahoga County Airport. We are advantaged by this cooperative agreement with USDA. If we were to go out to private sector, it probably would be 10 times, if not more, in cost. So we can take advantage of the USDA's services and enter into this agreement, and we're seeking that authority.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councilwoman Baker.
I agree, that's really a small amount of money for, I'm sure, a huge problem. How did you come up with 6588 as part of our portion of the total?
We had very little to do with it,
Oh.
frankly, Mr. Chair, to the councilwoman. There was a number presented by USDA. There are some costs broken down. Largely, it's personnel's time. They're not charging us in the normal sense. It's more of a reimbursement for time invested into the project.
Mr. McAleer.
Just a question on the funding source, airport operations, is that the general fund that funds the airport, or what is that funding source?
And Mr. Chairman, to Mr. McAleer, we're also, this is eligible for FAA grant reimbursable. While it isn't automatic, we are eligible to seek reimbursement. So once this hopefully is approved and executed, we would be seeking reimbursement for wherever the source of funds originally comes from.
Any other questions related to this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-715, Department of Development requesting authority to pay dues in the amount of $100,000 to fund our economic future of Northeast Ohio for a county membership for the period October 1st, 2019 through October 1st, 2021.
Good morning, Paul Hertig with the Department of Development. This is our 3-year dues payment to the Fund for Economic Future. And I do want to note, I'm going to request an amendment to the ending date because that was an error. I apologize, it slipped past me. It's supposed to be for a full 3 years. So it should run through September 30th of 2022. Cuyahoga County, along with about 34 other organizations, are dues-paying members of the Fund for Economic Future. The minimum payment is $100,000 every 3 years. There are a number of members, which are foundations, which choose to make a much larger payment so that the fund aggregates this money and uses this for its own grant-making and its operations. In very broad strategic terms, we support the fund because it's a center of intellectual excellence. It's a think tank, but it also supports and carries out economic development programs with a dual focus on supporting the growth of the region and equity and inclusion. I think everyone's familiar with the fund's report, The Two Tomorrows, which kind of highlighted the enduring systemic disparities in wealth and income that still exist based on race and in some sense gender. But the fund doesn't just highlight these problems, it also takes action to correct them. And two of the strategic initiatives that we've been involved in and do support are the Job Hubs Initiative, which is an effort to encourage development in areas that are accessible to people through transit and other transportation. And then the Mobility Initiative, which is an additional way of trying to bring to bear innovative thinking on the problem that people without cars can't often get to work. So I know that we've given the fund several different types of funding. This is basically our membership dues payment for the next 3 years. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from anyone on this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor? Oh, yep.
Is that as amended, changing the date to 9/30/22?
Yes, as amended, yes.
Okay, fine.
So we have, I made a motion, it's been seconded. All those in favor of approval of the change incorporated to the date through 2022, please indicate your approval by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-716, has been withdrawn at the request of the department.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question about that?
Yes, sir, you may.
I believe, based off the response or the information we received from the advanced questions, is this something that we were utilizing that we could have done without, based off the information provided?
Is there anybody from IT here?
No. contact IT.
That would be a
Find out for you.
question that would probably be forwarded to the IT director.
Thanks, Sharon.
Okay, you can take care of that. Thank you.
Yes. Next item, BC 2019-717, Department of Human Resources, submitting an amendment to a contract with the Metro Health System, DBA Skyway, for biometric screenings for flu shot services for the period April 8th, 2019 through December 31st, 2019, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $15,000.
Good morning, Holly Woods, Director of HR for Benefits and Compensation. So this request, annually we provide the biometric screenings and flu shots through Metro Health. This is one of the requirements for employees to, if they want to successfully complete the wellness program and receive the incentive. And this year we've had a really good response so far. Biometric screenings, we doubled participation. We went from 932 completions of the biometric screening last year to over just shy of 1,900 for 2019. So as a result, we need to request for money as we begin the flu shot clinics that will be provided at various county locations. So previously, we had just shy of 1,200 employees receive a flu shot across the county locations at the flu shot clinic, and those are scheduled for the coming weeks if this is approved.
Thank you. Are there any questions for this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item, BC 2019-718, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award on Requisition 45919 to Argus Group Holdings, LLC, DBA Premier Safety, in the amount not to exceed $84,638.41 for the purchase of one area atmospheric monitoring detection kit with laptop for the Lake County Emergency Management Agency.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety, and this will be using the Regional State Homeland Security Grant to purchase a unit that will be used by the Lake County Hazmat Team to detect, identify, and monitor chemical air contaminants. We did issue a formal bid for this, and we received 2 responses. We had to reject the lowest bid because they failed to submit a quote on a required element of the specifications, so we're making the recommendation as you see in your minutes.
Thank you. Any questions on this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-719, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with the Salvation Army for temporary housing and supportive services for homeless men in the PASS temporary housing program for the period July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $232,453.
Good morning, Sherry. We're from the Office of Homeless Services. We are requesting approval of this amendment with the Salvation Army for their past temporary housing program. That program serves 75 homeless men at a point in time. Over the last 12 months, they served 258 men, with 189 of them exiting, and 155 of those exited to permanent housing. They also focus on assisting the men to find employment or other sources of income for those who are disabled and not able to work, and link them with other programs for which they may be eligible, such as food stamps and so forth. So we just are looking to extend this contract.
I have a question. That you said it goes through 6/30?
Yeah.
The backup says 9/30, 2020?
I know it does. That the current contract expired 6/30 of this year. So
there was a discrepancy, but the contract out 12-month period would be July through June.
So the September 30th date is not correct?
It's not correct.
And you said the contract's already expired.
It did already expire.
Okay, any questions? Councilwoman Baker?
So, it's one thing to be late, but to add to an expired contract, I don't know, can we do that? I mean, is that something that we can legally do?
There are distinctions between extending and amending and getting a new contract. Lenore, do you have any opinion on this particular proposal?
Lenora Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. We voted on several contracts that were late, which in my procurement director opinion is an expired contract.
So having a contract that is initiated and then the funding is asked late is one thing, but to have a contract that expired and now 3 or 4 months later we're going back and adding to it I think it's different, isn't it? Or we have done this before, is what you're saying.
That is my recall. I'm not
Rarely.
a lawyer, so.
The law department did prepare this, so, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but the law department did prepare it.
I'm not a lawyer either, but it just seems that it falls into the category of things that got lost, and to keep the process moving, we're going to amend the contract, and because otherwise we would have to initiate a brand new contract. Is that right?
This is Jared Zabrotowski from the Law Department. The parties in this case can do this. They can make this amendment. So they can add time to something that's expired, or they can add money to something expired from a legal standpoint. Whether or not it's the best practice is not something under my purview. And I don't want to step on the toes of anyone in OPD as to their judgment as to whether they can do it either. But the parties can do that.
And the money that's extended between the expired contract and now, no money has been paid, or, I mean, services have continued?
No money has been paid.
Lenora Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. In general, the departments and vendors have the authority that has been approved by the pertinent contracting authority. Any contract that's presented outside of those terms is on those contracting authorities to determine whether or not they would like to approve and grant that authority. Our preference is always that they come in advance to get permission from the contracting authority to extend, add, or make any changes. But we have approved contracts that have expired, we have amended contracts that were past the date of the original amendment.
I know this is an important, Salvation Army does a lot for us and certainly need to be compensated, but what if we had said no today and this contract expired back in June? How would we have been able to pay them for their services, or were they in the understanding that they were taking that risk? Or
I don't have a clear answer on what would happen. It would be a big hit to them, and the reason this, I mean, I know excuses are excuses, but our director was out for a prolonged period of time, and this just sort of got off of the radar and didn't get processed. So, I mean, it should not have happened, but it did.
And so this is only going till June of next year.
Right.
So you're in the process, hopefully now, of renegotiating or going out for a bid, or what are you doing now so that this doesn't happen next June?
it could be RFP'd, I guess. There really is no other
Right.
organization in town that provides this and is set up to provide it. I mean, the only reason it was late is because our director was out ill, and we tried to keep things afloat, but this just got missed.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get into medical questions about the director, but
Right.
it just seems there's got to be a process where contracts that are expiring can be reviewed in advance of the expiration. I mean, it's Division of Homeless Services, this is a homeless contract. That's kind of.
No, we totally agree. Yeah.
Any other questions from anyone? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you all.
Next item, BC 2019-720, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior and Adult Services, requesting authority to submit a grant application to the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging in the amount of $409,640.42 for the Older Americans Act Senior Community Services Program in connection with the Aging and Disability Resource Network Grant Program for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2021.
Good morning. Paul Porter, Health and Human Services, on behalf of the Division of Senior and Adult Services. This ADRN grant funding is funding that DSAS has received. It's federal funding that comes through Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging, and DSAS has received it since 2011. We're requesting authority to apply for the grant for the 2-year period of 2020 and 2021. Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging will make the grant awards in 1-year periods, but it's a 2-year cycle. So we won't have to apply again for funding in 2021. Once the grant application is submitted, they'll make a determination and an award amount for next year, and then towards the end of next year, they'll make a determination and award amount for 2021. I will comment that this grant funding helps support the work that DSAS does in the community in terms of their benefits checkup program, where DSAS staff go out to senior centers, libraries in the community, community health fairs, and help connect seniors with cost-saving benefits. And last year in 2018, they were able to connect seniors to $754,000 worth of cost savings benefits. And since 2013, they've been able to help connect seniors to over $4 million in cost savings benefits. This grant funding helps offset the cost of the salaries and benefits for the DSAS employees that do this work.
Thank you. Any questions on this item? Councilwoman Baker?
So for clarification, the DSAS employees, for what it is that they do, the 410,000 is it's more of work already provided, or work that's, I mean, how do they determine what 15% of the HHS levy is?
Sure. So in response to the advanced question about that one, when DSAS fills out the grant application paperwork, it's broken down how much the cost of actual staff that might work on this project have for benefits and salary versus what the grant application takes care of. The minimum requirement would be a 15% match. Typically on the budget paperwork that DSAS submits, it's much higher than that because the staff that do this work also complete other tasks for DSAS that wouldn't be reimbursable under this grant. But as I said, this helps really offset a big portion of their salaries. And DSAS feels that kind of the benefits to the seniors, those cost savings, are more than worth it for the grant amount that we get.
So the 410,000 is actual dollars that we will be receiving?
Correct. Dollars that come in to help offset the cost of those salary and benefits. And that $409,000 figure is spread out over 2 years. So if you look, I included the history of the grant funding. The annual amount has been $204,820 for the past 3 years. and that's the amount that we're requesting. The determination of the award could vary. It could be different than what we're requesting.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you.
Moving on to exemptions, BC 2019-721, Department of Development requesting to amend Board of Control approval number BC 2014-316, dated December 22nd, 2014, which approved an alternative procurement process which resulted in an award recommendation to Cuyahoga County Land Reutilization Corporation in the amount not to exceed $9 million to demolish vacant, abandoned, nuisance, or blighted structures owned by the land bank for the period January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2019, by extending the time period to December 31st, 2020. No additional funds required.
Sarah Parks Jackson with the Department of Development. We're requesting to amend a previous approval to allow the land bank the opportunity to complete demolitions by providing the alternate procurement process through 12/31/2020. The original legislation, I believe, has already been amended to take the program to 2020, and then we had two exemptions, one for the land bank's money, the other one for the cities. I believe the city has already been amended, so this is the last of the amendments, and then the next thing you will see will be some of the contracts. We had to do this first, and then the contracts that say 12/31/2019 will be amended for 2020.
Any questions on this item? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the exemption. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The exemption is approved. Thanks, Sarah. Now we move on to the consent agenda.
Consent items number BC 2019-722 to 724, with an amendment to BC 2019-724 to withdraw the awards to Benjamin Foods on requisition numbers 46615, 46616, 46623, 46624, 46627, 46630, 46632, 46636, 46639, 46642, 46643, 46645, 46646, 46647, and 46650.
Okay, if everybody will take a moment to review the consent agenda. I have a question about 722, Mr. Chambers. So we're changing the funding source. That's really the motivation for this change? Oh, I'm sorry.
722.
722.
Yeah, don't let him answer. No. We originally programmed this project, obviously in 15 or before. We were anticipating federal funds, which never came. And so in an effort not to wait any longer, the city approached us and said, would we be interested if they put in a piece of it and we applied for issue 1 and then split the difference with them? Could we get the project going sooner? And so we had agreed to that. And so the new funding, we did get awarded 50% issue 1 funding. So then we are putting in 25%. The city of Cleveland's putting in 25%. So our percentage went up 5%. But in the grand scheme of things, we get the project in quicker. So the cost is probably very similar.
And you were originally supposed to get the money from NOACA?
That's what we anticipated. So you apply, it takes years before it finally ends up on the tip. So that's how we anticipated funding this project. NOACA somewhat changed their approach as to how they prioritized projects, and then it was obvious this one wasn't going to get funded anytime in the near future. So in order to get the project done, we changed up our funding scheme. So initially, we had an agreement with Cleveland with this original funding scheme in it, so we needed to issue a new agreement.
One last question. When you say originally it said 20% road and bridge,
Mm-hmm.
now it says 25% county. Is that still?
That's road and bridge too.
Right.
Yeah, same.
Thank you. Any other questions about any of the items on the consent agenda? Councilman Miller?
Could you explain why the Benjamin Foods items were withdrawn?
Good morning, Stephen Witt with the Sheriff's Department. So on Friday, we learned that Benjamin Foods is currently undergoing some financial troubles, and they're only able to provide food that they have in inventory, so their suppliers have cut them off. So we did not feel comfortable, and they did not feel comfortable awarding them the fourth quarter food that they were going to be awarded, as there's no guarantee that they would be able to provide that food for the whole quarter.
So, am I correct that all of the Benjamin Foods items are being deleted?
We are planning on bringing forward new awards to replace those at the next meeting, where we will be going to the next lowest bidders.
And do we have any sense of how much additional money it's going to cost?
As of right now, it looks like it's going to be about $20,000 to $25,000 more for those awards.
And what was the total amount?
The original total amount for the fourth quarter was about $706,000. So now it will be about $730,000.
And on a percentage basis, how much is the cost going just on the Benjamin Food items?
Benjamin Foods was about 25% of our awards, and the total cost is going to go up probably about 10% due to Benjamin Foods having such a low bid compared to the other vendors.
Okay.
I did have one quick question on the travel that was in July. It's just coming up now, showing up now.
Good morning, Dan Boss, the Department of Health and Human Services, on behalf of the Division of Children and Family Services. This item was submitted. There was a Board of Control item for a grant between DCFS and the University of Maryland. As soon as we received approval for that grant, this was part of their training within the grant. We submitted it back in July. I'm not sure why it took this long to get here, but that's the reasoning. It's on here directly now.
Okay, I'll check it out on our end and see what happens, but it's 3 months, so.
Yeah, it was submitted probably about July 1st. So it was the grant item was approved in the last Board of Control meeting in June.
Okay, any?
Dan, you submitted the travel on about July 1st?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. Is there any other business?
No other business.
Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
I will then make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of adjournment indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.